Greetings everyone, and welcome to Lords of Elite. I'm your host, Lord Knight. In this two-part video, I'm going to be discussing different methods that I use for gathering materials that are needed for engineering in Elite Dangerous. This information is also specific to the PC, so if you're on a different platform, this may not be of much help to you. These methods that I use involve a third-party app, a few websites, graphics that I made, and even some information in the galaxy map that you may or may not be aware of. I'd like to mention up front that there are also some ways of gathering materials by means of mining or combat zones, but I'm not going to be covering those, and here's why. When you're out mining, I find it extremely difficult to find a specific or multiple types of materials quickly and easily, and I'm trying to save you time here. The problem I have with combat zones is that they are an active battlefield, and in my opinion, while others will say that this is a viable method to finding a lot of materials that we're going to need, I think it's just too hazardous to try to gather materials in an active combat zone. On the battlefield, you don't go picking through fallen soldiers' pockets looking for change, so what would make this any different? In addition to that, these videos are partially aimed at new players of the game, and I just can't advise a new player to head out into a combat zone to gather materials. Lastly, I'm going to be discussing only the most common engineered modules and the most common types of engineering to those modules. Because whether you're new to the game or you've been playing for a while and you just bought a new ship, if engineering is something you're considering doing, these are the most important upgrades you're going to be starting with. They are power plant, power distributor, frameshift drive, thrusters, and shield generator. And the most common engineering done to these modules are overcharged, charge enhanced, increased range, dirty drive tuning, and reinforced shields. These are by no means the only types of engineering you can do, and some people prefer to do these completely differently than I do, and that's fine. Feel free to pick and choose what works best for you. I'm just going to cover what I've found to be the most important and common upgrades that are usually done, and the materials needed for those upgrades only. I also won't be getting into weapons or other types of engineering, including experimental effects, as it would take a very long time to cover all the different options available. So with that being said, let's get started. The first thing on the list is a third-party app called EDEngineer. A link is provided down in the description. I use this as a way to monitor my inventory while I'm playing the game. It has an overlay feature which is pretty cool. You just click the lock window tab at the bottom left and use Ctrl F10 to hide and bring it up. But I have a second monitor and I like to keep it pulled up over there. It allows me to see more at a glance than having to look over at my right panel frequently and scroll through the list there. Also, this provides a lot more information that's quick and easy to access. If you scroll down below the installer link on their website, there's a 5-minute video narrated by Commander EDEngineer that gives a more in-depth explanation to its features, so you might want to check that out. I'm just going to show you how I use it. For example, let's say we want to engineer a frameshift drive. The first thing I'm going to do is go up here to the type filter. If you deselect the All checkbox and select frameshift drive, that will show you all the engineering that can be done to that module, including experimental effects. Those are displayed down here in green. Next, I'll go up here to the star icons and click these. This will mark these as favorites. Then I can go over here to the ignored and favorite filter, deselect neither and ignored, and now the list will only show me the upgrades that I set as favorites. Clicking on these will show us the materials we need for the upgrades to this module, as well as showing me how many I currently have in my inventory and how many units I need per role for that upgrade. Over to the right, it displays the names of the engineers that can perform this upgrade, and here in the center, it displays the amount of effect it will have on that module. Now to make a shopping list, I'll click on these plus icons and this will make a condensed list down below, displaying all the materials I'll need to fully engineer this module. In this case, grade 1 through grade 5. Something to notice here is the amount of rolls per unit you need for that grade. For instance, I only need 1 unit of chemical distillery for 1 roll of grade 4. but I will need 2 units of chemical processors and 2 units of atypical disrupted wake echoes because they are needed for multiple grade levels in this list. Moving on to the left panel now. Over here we have our materials inventory. Currently this is displaying our data materials. This can be listed by group view, or you can click this group ingredients tab to display them in alphabetical order. The highlighted tooltips are the first time we see an indicator of how and where we can find these materials. In this example, data mined wake exceptions can be found by high wake scanning or as mission rewards. Some even list the top source systems to find them in, but in this case it's just a question mark. Moving on to the Materials tab will display your raw and manufactured materials. Once again, hovering your mouse over an item or icon will display a tooltip on how and where to find that given material. Next to this material, this molecule icon means that it's a raw material and it can be found by surface prospecting. While down here, this material is a manufactured material, and this one says that it can be found by searching ship salvage of transporter ships and signal sources in high security systems. Although it doesn't say what type of signal source, but in this example it does suggest the Hades sector DR-V C2-23 as a likely source. Some of you will recognize that system, but we'll explore that later. Another thing you will find occasionally in the tooltips is that you're looking at a material that is needed to unlock an engineer. So again, this is the first time we start to get any information that's helpful to our goal. And that's EDEngineer, a very helpful app. Be sure to get it. And if you like it, click the donate button on their site. Apparently, they work for beer. Now let's talk about websites. The first one on my list is wavescanner.net. Some of you already know about this, but for the rest of you, I'll show you how it works. The first thing you need to know about the wave scanner is that it isn't good at showing you your distance from an object, but it is good at pointing you in the right direction of it. And here's an observation that I made along the way that helps me identify what's around me. I've found that anything that shows up from the middle of the scanner down is going to be mineral. Anything from the middle of the scanner up is going to be technology. This website will let you hear and see what an object looks like to better help you identify it with just the scanner. All you do here is click the box next to the item that you want to identify, and it will display what it looks like in the scanner down below. If you press the play button next to that box, it will even play the sound for you. Deselect these to make it quiet, then choose another selection. See how this mesosiderite is showing in the lower part of the scanner? That's mineral. Here's what that sounds like. Now in contrast, if we select something that's technology, such as a crash site, this will show up in the middle to upper part of the scanner. But for something a bit puzzling, check out the barnacle example. It seems to display readings that look both mineral and technological. That's peculiar. So that's wavescanner.net, a very useful site to help you identify the different types of items you will encounter while prospecting on a planet. This site is probably the one I use the most for finding systems in a particular state or planets with the materials I'm looking for. EDEngineer.io. Now it has different tabs with many different features that are very helpful, but the ones I'm going to be focusing on are bodies and systems. Let's start with systems. Say we want to find a system with a distribution center in it. We're going to need a system that's in anarchy, so any kills won't turn into fines or penalties. So we go to Government and choose Anarchy. We'll also need a state that's in famine, so we'll choose that here. Then just put in your reference system and click Find System. This will tell you the distance from your reference system, the population, and the name of the system closest to you that meets those requirements. Because we're trying to speed things up here, when I'm looking for a distribution center, what I do is drop into the first system with a decent population number in the list, look to my navigation panel, and if I don't see a distribution center in the list, I plot a new system and go to it. I do this until I find one. While it might be possible that there is a distribution center closer to a given planet in the system, I don't spend my time searching planets. I search systems. If I don't find one on the first try, it can take me 2 or 3 attempts before I hit the jackpot. Bingo! I found that systems with higher numbered populations have better chances of finding these. At this time, something I want to point out is the reason I've put these videos together is to show you how to find things easier and to get specific materials quicker, and this is a prime example of how I do that. Distribution centers are great for destroying T9s to get their loot. From destroying one ship, I was able to get chemical manipulators and chemical processors for our frameshift drive and power distributor upgrades, conductive components, conductive ceramics for the power plant upgrade, as well as configurable components that we'll use for the thrusters upgrade. That's materials for 3 different upgrades with 1 destroyed T9. Now we're moving. But get this, something else that can be done here is scanning ships and high wakes for the data materials we need as well, like data mined wake exceptions, atypical disrupted wake echoes, and strange wake solutions. We also need those for the frameshift drive upgrade. Here's a couple of tips. To scan ships, just point the nose of your ship at their ship, it will scan automatically. And you typically need to be under 4 kilometers from a wake to be able to scan that. Now your radar might get a bit cluttered up, so keep in mind if you select a high wake that hasn't already been scanned, it will show up in the ship description on the left as need scan. So let's recap. Finding distribution centers and destroying T9s, as well as haulers and adders, and scanning ships and wakes can get you materials for 4 out of the 5 upgrades I'm covering in these tutorials. And that's one instance. That's simple. Keep in mind that higher population systems mean more frequency of ships and wakes to scan. Killed all the T9s? Give it a minute. The instance will reset and you can do it all again, for as long as you like. No need to log in and out. Yeah, you might spend an hour here doing this, but it doesn't take an hour for all these things to show up. You'll spend an hour because it's so easy to collect so many materials at one time. This is what I call backing up the truck, because we're gonna load it up. In part 2 of this video, we'll go back to the websites and graphics to continue helping us find the materials we need for engineering. While you're here, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the next videos become available. I'm Commander Lord Knight. Thanks for watching, and remember, fly dangerous.